Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, and all of the protocol observed, we're starting this next session known as Regional Economic Integration and Foreign Investment, Enhancing Cross-Border Investment in Africa. As many of you know, Africa is moving toward a deeper economic integration. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or the AfCFTA otherwise known as, is emerging as a game changer for cross-border investment. Today we're going to delve into understanding how streamlined policies, enhanced trade facilitation, and joint infrastructure efforts are unlocking new opportunities for foreign investment across the continent. May I request our esteemed panelists to join us over here. May I request His Excellency, Vice Prime Minister of DRC and Minister of Planning, Mr. Mbwizia, to join us first. And he's going to be the second. Oh yeah, first. This one. And if we can have Mr. John Wenda, the CEO of the Kenya Investment Authority, Dr. Shireen Helmi, the CEO of FARCO Corporation, Ms. Filomena Oliveira, the co-founder of ACBI Angola and president of the AfCFTA SA, and Mr. John Hanna, the managing director of GDP Global. Join us, please. So before we get into this brief discussion on enhancing FDI across Africa, let me just give a brief introduction on each of the distinguished guests. His Excellency Minister Gillian Nyembo Mbwimbiza is an economist born in Kinshasa and has over 2 decades of experience in financial engineering. He's currently leading reforms to improve public and financial governance, combating corruption, and renegotiating major mining contracts. He's currently the Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Planning and is tasked with modernizing government action to advance President Tshisekedi's development vision for the Congolese people. We have Mr. John Wenda. He's the CEO of Ken Invest. He has over 20 years of experience in finance, investment promotions, and public service reform. He's played a key role in improving Kenya's global ease of doing business and has previously worked with Barclays and the President's Strategy Office. We have Dr. Shireen Helmi, the CEO of FARCO. He's a veteran of the pharmaceutical industry with more than 4 decades of leadership experience. He has overseen international operations and held board roles across Europe, the Middle East, and the US, and is active in science and education governance in Egypt. We have Ms. Filomena Oliveira, who's the co-founder of ACBI Angola, and serves as the president of AfCFTA, where she focuses on enterprise development and economic empowerment. She also leads an initiative and co-founded the Injinga Madume initiative to drive inclusive entrepreneurship in Angola and across Africa. And lastly, we have John Hanna, the CEO of GDP Global. He's a leading consultant in economic development and investment promotion, with decades of experience in advising governments and trade zones internationally. He supports national, regional, and city-based IPAs, special economic zones, and trade ministries with strategy and capacity building. All right, to begin, I believe everyone understands that the DRC is perhaps one of the most economically and natural resource endowed countries in the world. It has immense deposits in natural resource wealth, in copper, gold, diamonds, and other minerals, but is also leading one of the green energy transitions that we know today. Alongside that, it has vast arable land for agriculture. Now, these sectors hold immense potential not just for domestic growth, but for international economic development. And this is critical under the AfCFTA. Excellency, given DRC's vast mineral resources, particularly in in these precious metals that are needed globally, how is your ministry leveraging these assets to regional investment planning to unlock inclusive growth across the country, but also across the region?
Merci et bonjour à tout le monde.
Hello and thank you all.
Voilà, donc vous l'avez dit, avec toutes les ressources que la RDC regorge aujourd'hui,
So, like you said, all of the resources of the DRC has today.
nous avons une vision claire de 25 ans, d'ici 25 ans, donc on va à l'horizon 2050.
We have a clear vision for the next 25 years, so up to even to 2050.
Et pour que nous puissions arriver à atteindre le niveau de développement,
In order to reach the level of our development
comme un pays développé,
as a developed country,
et avec un cours intermédiaire de 10 ans pour espérer être un pays émergent,
with a short-term goal in order to become an emerging country.
avec toutes les ressources que nous avons, que ce soit les ressources naturelles qui est en capital humain,
With all of the resources that we have, part of natural resources and labor resources,
nous avons déterminé 5 domaines d'activité intenses.
we have been able to detect 5 intense domains.
Nous attaquons d'abord la diversification qui est un point d'ancrage aujourd'hui pour notre pays.
We have the diversity, which is an important point for our country.
Parce que vous le savez, vous avez développé sur le plan du secteur minier, il y a un besoin d'un développement intégral, donc un développement vertical, une diversification plutôt verticale,
We are looking into more of a vertical development for our country,
où nous avons besoin d'axer toute notre énergie vers la transformation locale.
we are looking to have our green energy produced locally.
Et là, nous avons des grandes opportunités, bien entendu, pour l'industrie minière.
And we have also big goals for the mining
Parce que nous voulons
development.
développer toutes les chaînes de valeur pour permettre à notre pays d'absorber le chômage que nous avons.
Okay.
Nous permettre, ouais, avec la diversification au niveau interne dans le secteur minier, nous permettons au pays de développer les chaînes de valeur nécessaires pour que nous puissions absorber notre chômage interne.
We are looking to develop as well with the internal resources to improve the labor and the
Mais aussi avec des coopérations avec des pays voisins.
but also in correspondence with neighboring countries.
Et donc, dans les cas d'intégration régionale, nous avons aujourd'hui un contrat qui est en train d'être développé avec la Zambie pour la batterie
We have
électrique.
we have a contract that is being developed for the
Des batteries pour les véhicules électriques.
for batteries for vehicle EVs.
Nous avons dans le même domaine, donc en termes de lithium, donc aussi, c'est toute une chaîne que nous voulons développer aujourd'hui pour permettre sur place que nous allons jusqu'à la fin de la chaîne.
We're looking also to fulfill the whole chain of lithium batteries.
Vous avez au niveau des cobalts avec tout ce que vous développez aujourd'hui avec l'électronique.
With all of the chain of the electronics that we can develop locally.
Donc ça c'est sur le plan du secteur minier, mais nous avons des opportunités aussi au niveau de la diversification dans les domaines agricoles,
We also have opportunities in the diversity of agriculture,
où nous avons un grand potentiel avec 80 millions d'hectares de terres arables.
we also have a lot of possibilities with 80,000 acres of.
Non. Et sur le plan de marché en interne, nous avons plus ou moins 100 millions d'habitants à nourrir.
We have over 100,000 people to feed in our
Et
country.
sur le plan régional, nous avons des voisins, 9 voisins, que nous avons donc un marché qui est plus large.
We also have neighboring countries of 9 neighboring countries that is a larger market.
Et c'est un effort qui est développé déjà avec le président Tshisekedi dès son arrivée au pouvoir, qu'il a visité tous les voisins pour permettre à ce qu'on développe des projets intégrateurs, justement. Dès le départ de l'entrée au pouvoir du président Tshisekedi, c'est une activité qu'il a développée avec les voisins pour faire des propositions pour que les pays puissent développer des projets intégrateurs entre les pays voisins.
Since the entrance of the President Tshisekedi, this is something that he has been put in place with the neighboring countries already.
Alors, nous avons aussi sur le plan des infrastructures,
We also have plans of infrastructure.
Just 2 seconds. Au niveau infrastructurel, nous avons le corridors de l'hôpital,
We have the corridor
les corridors de l'hôpital
of Lobito
que nous devons développer.
that we need to develop.
Donc, dans tous les couloirs de l'hôpital, nous avons à développer des petites et moyennes entreprises parce que vous savez, l'objectif de l'hôpital, c'est de ramener les minerais qui se trouvent au sud de la RDC vers l'Angola.
So we want to bring the people that are more in the south of the DRC, bring them more up north towards Angola.
Donc, toute une série d'opportunités qui s'ouvrent à ce niveau-là.
So to bring a bunch of opportunities to these people coming up north.
Donc, en tant que pays, nous offrons toutes ces possibilités au niveau des infrastructures, au niveau de la diversification et au niveau de la gouvernance. Donc, il y a toute une panoplie d'opportunités pour les investisseurs dans notre pays.
So as a country, we bring all of these opportunities of diversification, of agriculture, of industrialization for our country.
Thank you. John, we heard that Congo has a significant amount of economic resources that it can end up expanding, into. What can you say about Kenya in terms of how Kenya has taken the lead in East Africa in terms of improving its ease of doing business? And I say that why? Because today Congo is a country that has a lot of opportunities, but you have a lot of experience in setting a track record of investment in East Africa, and you've done a very good job of doing that. Could you comment on that, please? And perhaps, indicate what Congo can actually end up doing in terms of driving that sort of regional cooperation as well.
Thank you for this question. I think it's important before you talk about Kenya just to contextualize what the opportunity is, especially for Africa. The AfCFTA presents the biggest trading bloc since the advent of the WTO. And if you look at some of the FDI flows, for example, the last UNCTAD report, Africa attracted just about $53 billion worth of FDI out of a global population that you saw in the morning at the opening ceremony of about $1.3 trillion. What then this means is that countries in Africa must really position themselves to really net FDI as we transition into the future. So the AfCFTA market opportunity of 1.4 billion people presents really a good opportunity for countries such as Kenya to lay the foundation to really attract capital. Today, global dynamics are really changing. As you know, multilateralism today is likely to face significant headwinds. And infrastructure and connectivity is the fundamental, foundation to really ease trade, which of course benefits the investment you land in a country. So for Kenya, we are really doing two broad things. One is significantly addressing the cost of doing business, and really this is massive public sector investment into the enabling environment. Our port of Mombasa, for example, which serves not only Kenya, but the hinterland all the way to DRC, for example, continues to be under development. And so our road and rail and port infrastructure, logistics in terms of airports, all those are the hardware that we are really focusing on to fix the cost of doing business. But on the softer side, on the ease of doing business, really is on three fronts. Number one is on the policy side of things. We have really been very pragmatic in laws and regulations that support investments. We are modernizing our investment law, for example, aligning it with the AfCFTA investment protocols to make sure it is robust, because investors want a predictable business environment. The second of all is also the softer side of things, the licensing regimes, the predictability of some of the issues that investors want around incentives and really modeling them around the best-in-class practice. So you have the cost of doing business, which public sector continues to do. Then you have the ease of doing business, which still is a public sector role, but of course is really leveraging on private sector feedback to really holistically then ensure the balance between the hard and the soft part of things can make it work. And finally, for example, Kenya has pronounced itself as a home of humankind. So today we have said on the people-to-people front, you can come to Kenya visa-free from all of Africa today. And we hope this is just but a signal of how we are really simplifying the terrain so that we can begin to net off more capital in various sectors. And then the final point is really a sector-focused FDI attraction strategy. We realize we cannot compete in all sectors, but in a number of sectors where we have a comparative advantage, you know, some sectors in manufacturing like pharmaceutical, apparel sector and leather, in the BPO and technology space. You know, these are some of the sectors we believe we stand a chance. In agriculture, in agribusiness and agro-processing, we believe the sector-led approach will enable us be able to serve the African continent and of course beyond by targeting also our export market. So we believe some of those interventions will really place Kenya on the global map in FDI attraction. Thank you.
I think you gave a nice overview in terms of what Kenya is actually doing and what it has actually done, especially in terms of ease of doing business. Having said that, Dr. Shireen, you from the private sector have seen that the ease of doing business or the easier it is to do business in a country enables you to end up expanding your business, specifically in the healthcare industry. And you're looking specifically at affordable healthcare. All right, you've championed this access to affordable medication and health equity. Where do you see, or how do you see regional cooperation helping address issues related to healthcare, namely within the intellectual property sector, right, for medicines?
To be or not to be, that's the question. To patent or not to patent, that's the question. Life gains versus trade gains, that's the questions. We have this problem, and I heard the story about a wise man. A young boy came to him and he told him, my mother told me to do so, and my father told me to do something else. What shall I do? Whom would I obey? He said, son, you have to obey your mother, but don't disobey your father. So when I attended the United Nations Secretary General High Level for Access to Medicine in South Africa in 2017, there were 100 panelists. I was number 99, and we said there are World Trade Organization, WIPO, World Health, multinationals, patients, patent offices. They said we've been meeting for 10 years, and each one is pulling into a side, but we're not reaching consensus. What shall we do? So we started by making a group with DNDi. Dr. Luis Pizarro is the Director General of Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative, made by the paycheck of Nobel Prize from Doctors Without Borders, and the Malaysian government, and FARCO as an industrial partner, and Thailand government under the umbrella of WHO. We said, let the multinationals spend what they want to do, but let us work on things that we can make medicine accessible. No patient should be left behind. The first year with COVID, 2 million people died. But every year, 1.5 million persons die from hepatitis B and C. But from COVID, everybody was frightened because they die in 20 days. But with hepatitis, they die in 20 years, so nobody cares and nobody asks. And many of the people, when we went to one country and we analyzed for 200 doctors, 10% was infected and they didn't know. So how can we reach this? And South-South collaboration. This is the name of the game. I have a surprise for you. By the year 2033, there will be no free lunch anymore for any country in the world. In the year 2005, medium income countries like Egypt, you should not go and against the patents. All the world by the year 23, which is after tomorrow, 8 years from now, it just finished. What shall we do? We have to work in innovation, work together, like organization like DNDi, they work with sleeping sickness, dengue, shagas, the things that multinationals will not spend millions of dollars because it's for poor countries. So what shall we do? We should work. 70% of the pharmaceuticals is imported outside of Africa. And we saw when COVID-19 happened, the API for paracetamol, just an antipyretic, was not shipped to us. What if something happens in the supply chain between countries in the coming years where everything is boiling around? With 1.4 billion person, we can supply champagne on beer's budget, but by working together. We can make an entity with technology transfer from Farco. I run a company with 8,000 employees. I produce every morning 1 million pharmaceutical packs, and we got the price of hepatitis C drug from $100,000 to less than $100. And for Egypt, we gave it for 15 cents. That's why the Director General of WHO gave Egypt the certificate, golden certificate for cure. So we can have training centers in Egypt to train pharmacists, engineer, chemists, and we can make local manufacturing for 5 countries. They say in the coming 10 years, every 2 years we will start a company in East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, but we make central procurement, even with the machinery. We say, okay, we're going to buy 5 big factories, but on 10 years, every 2 years we'll have an ad hoc team to make this work. And with regulatory harmonization and with pre-qualification from WHO, we can register the drug in the 50-something countries. I don't have to go to each and single country to register it. If your drug authority is accredited and you have quality, so we have to work with economies of scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think you touched on some key aspects in terms of innovation, looking at economies of scale, and cooperating in a way that allows for everyone to end up growing versus just an individualistic sort of approach.
Yes.
From that perspective, Philomena, you work specifically in the areas of sustainability and agro-industrial development. Biodiversity is also very critical in some of the work that you do. From your perspective in the areas that you work in, what are the most critical enablers for sustainable cross-border investment in agri-tech and logistics and biodiversity, which is specifically a sector that is not really thought of?
Well, it's not working. Thank you. So the enablers for cooperation, cross-boarding or any place, is always trust and clarity between people. So we need to trust each other, and stability is a very important point. We need to get closer to each other. We need to speak about the same things. That's why when we start developing ACBI, which is a cluster for biodiversity and inclusion, we are being clear. It's an African cluster. So it's a diplomatic initiative for Africa that puts into the same equation the biodiversity and the inclusion. We need to include the people to promote biodiversity. This is very clear. So clarity on what we offer, trust between people, and willing to learn. Capacitation is a key point. And From my experience being Portuguese speaker, using the same language as a factor of connecting people can be a very important factor. But also, I invite all presents to join initiatives like ACBI, because joining platforms, international platforms, make us all stronger. That's for me the very important. So getting together, working together for a common point, and trusting that together we can be stronger. So this is for me the most important strategy.
Okay. I think that you mentioned something very interesting. You mentioned ACP, and you end up mentioning, that cooperation among people. That's very critical, and I see that especially happening in regions such as the EAC, where language is also a very important aspect. And today we have two people from the EAC. We have Congo represented over here and Kenya represented over here. So that is very critical. Having said that, John, you work specifically advising IPAs, okay? And you enable them to attract FDI, all right? In the context of the larger African free trade, continental free trade area, how can more African governments work together? Because you also have barriers to trade that are put up, that even within East Africa we're seeing, and I'm using that example because we have two panelists from East Africa, we have barriers to trade over there. And what are perhaps some of the mechanisms or platforms that you believe are most effective for joint cooperation?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I have the pleasure and the honor to work with many investment promotion organizations in Africa, but around the world. And I've had a chance to see how different countries, how different regions are successful. We can, of course, turn to developed economies for, you could call it really good practice, very sophisticated systems, ecosystems, but they're not necessarily applicable or even relevant in other parts of the world. I think the starting point for investment promotion agencies is for them to come together through their regional bodies for trade and investment and economic diversity and development. So they're already in Africa regional groupings. We heard about ECOWAS and COMESA, we know SADC. These entities already exist. They have regular financing and infrastructure. It would be perhaps ideal for them to work individually on a common set of parameters to consider what's needed for investment promotion. As a consultant, we always like to map everything. We map everything, sort of what's the need, where are the institutions, where are the investors, what are the touch points for all of these? Is it by industry sector? Is it on supplier development? Is it the chances for enterprise development or cross-border trade? So all of that ideally is a standard exercise, it's not difficult, but if the major regional blocks working under the direction, guidance and support of AfCFTA Secretariat, then that's a starting point. Map everything out and then look for the areas of mutual interest. So yes, every nation state should have its IPA or its trade promotion body. Every region, province, state obviously should have its maybe handful of expertise. And the same goes in the municipalities, in the border crossings, in the SEZs, and I would even say in the private sector entities, whether they're in finance or they're in business and trade. I would imagine to get that all mapped out and then find something for them to share and interact. You talked about an ecosystem. I think to be practical, most days it's done online, so something internet, online driven, and to encourage all those collaborations. And then the last thing I would say is think about 3-year timescale for projects. So don't try and plan out the next 20 years. It's a complete waste of time. Take it in 3-year initiatives, because that's the concentration time, like we have here, 2-3 minutes. We have 2 or 3 years concentration time for people in positions to learn something, to interact across borders, and gradually the next time, 3 minutes, 3 years, 10 years, I think you would then start to see some real good progress.
Yeah, and I apologize because of time limitations. I'm not going to be able to go to round 2, but let me just end up closing this by what I understood. I understood that each country has significant resources, be it, in the ground or be it in the value addition that they provide. The competitive and comparative advantages need to overlap one another in order for trade to actually take place, in order for innovation to actually take place. One country may have something that another country may produce, all right? But which country can produce it better may allow the two to actually match. So it's competitive advantages and comparative advantages. It's needs and wants that allow each other to operate, and it's the potential to say, let's do this together versus let's do it individually, but also having each country shout out through their investment promotion agencies that this is what we can do. All right?
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, and apologies for the time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.